Yo, what's going on, guys? Rhys here from More Than Lifting with the More Than Lifting podcast. Conversations about bodyweight training, calisthenics, gymnastics, all that good stuff. I've already messed up the intro, but never mind. I'm Rhys, a personal trainer from the UK and founder of morethanlifting.com. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about what skill training actually is. Like, what are skills? And how you go about training them, because we've covered a lot of the strength stuff, and now it's time to turn our attention to the more interesting things. Now we've kind of covered the foundation, hitting that baseline of strength before you can progress on. Well, this is what you progress on to, the interesting stuff, the skills. And yeah, so what are skills then? So skills are basically anything outside of the basic movement pattern kind of stuff. So you've got your main exercises, your main kind of dynamic movements, your push, your pull. So outside of that, your kind of pull-ups and your dips and your leg raises. I mean, your leg raises could, I suppose, be considered a skill. But anything outside of those main movement patterns tends to be a skill. It's not always the case. There are like little things, but I'm not going to go nitpicking. That's just the basic rule. All right, these are more technical than the basic movement patterns. So for actual exercises, you've got the obvious skills, things like handstands, obvious skill, L-sit is an obvious skill, the planche, the human flag, your back lever, your front lever, elbow levers. Like, these are all skills. We can kind of agree on them. But then you've also got lower level stuff, things like crow stands. That's a skill because it's an isometric exercise, but it is definitely a skill. You're balancing, you're coordinating yourself, controlling. It's a very low level, like handstand progression, a quick win. If you're getting into bodyweight training, you want to learn something pretty cool pretty quick, you'll be able to master the crow stand, or at least the basics of the crow stand, pretty quickly. And so that's a great exercise, a great skill. And then it gets more complicated as well when you go further down the line, because you do have your dynamic skills as well. You've got your handstand push-ups, planche push-ups, pull, like front lever pulls. You got muscle up, lever muscle ups. You got even more advanced stuff with like the gymnastics kind of side of things, where you've got like ring planches and all kinds of crazy skills. Like this really, the sky is the limit with these things, because you unlock the first kind of set of skills, and that then teaches you the basics to move on to the next skill. So although you've got your basic progression formula, as we've spoken about in an earlier episode, once you actually achieve a skill, that unlocks like a couple of variations of that skill that you can then try out as well. Like, we'll go with a handstand as the example. So you first learn to handstand, like that's a skill. Well done. You started off with your crow stand, you've done like your wall supported handstands, and you've done your bunny hops and all these progression exercises to achieve your handstand, freestanding. Well done. Probably took a while. It is very difficult to learn to stand on your hands. And so then what? Next, you've got like your straddle handstand. You've got your tuck handstand. You got a split, like a front split. You see a lot of the yoga girls kind of doing it on Instagram. I can't do it very well, I'll be honest, because my splits are just horrendous. But then, so that's your basic skill, a couple of variations. And after that, then you've got more skills, dynamic skills based around that exercise. So you've got like your straddle press and your pike press. Once you've kind of achieved them, you can turn those into like press reps. So then that becomes like a dynamic skill you can do 4 reps as a workout, which is great conditioning. And beyond that, then you've also got things like transitions, and transitions are mixing between exercises. So for example, you can go from like your handstand to your L-sit and back and forth. That's a really popular one that a lot of guys do. And a lot of guys like training L-sit handstand, or handstand to L-sit and back again. really, really great training, very difficult, and a really good skill, really cool skill to have. Like, you know, it's really difficult, really good training. So awesome. If you can do that, then fucking props to you, mate, because it must have taken a while. So yeah, you're not just limited to one skill. Obviously, after that, you've got your one-arm handstands, you've got your handstand push-ups, you got, once you can get down to your L-sit, maybe you try handstand to like an elbow lever, and then next thing you're doing 90-degree push-ups, which is exactly that for reps, like handstand, elbow lever, and back again, which is insane, and is going to be at the end of the 100 push-up challenge this year as well. So if you're not involved already, go get involved with that, because it's yeah, I mean, you can watch me just struggle with doing 20 of the things. Oh god. The more I say that, the more I kind of realise how difficult that's actually going to be to achieve. But I'm not losing face. I'm pushing hard for it, so it's going to be really exciting. So skills isn't just like 5 or 6 skills that you can learn. Like, a lot of people think they're like the basic kind of power moves, you know, your flag, your levers, your planche, and your handstand or whatever, your muscle up. They're like the kind of main ones, but really they're just the starting point of those exercises, because they're the most basic form of the isometric hold. Like, then you can turn that into a dynamic skill by doing the pull-ups or the like front lever pulls or whatever, and then you can do like the next one, some transitions like front lever muscle ups, which you see a lot of people do as well. Really great exercise, and you'll probably actually learn them before front lever pulls, just you know, just for a bit of that information, because they are actually easier. I personally find them easier than muscle ups, but I couldn't even think about doing them until I could do a front lever. So so that's what I'm talking about. The skills are like the next level progressions on from your basic movement patterns, and you'll use those strength exercises to supplement your training for the skills. So that's kind of where we're going to next. So we've covered like what skills are. They're advanced, complex exercises that usually take up most of your body, if not all of it, and they go beyond the scope of just the basic movement patterns. They're much more complex than that, and they're actually more iconic exercises, like things like the gymnastics exercises, like your levers and stuff like that. So they're actually quite a lot more recognizable than some of the other some of the more foundational strength-based exercises you do at calisthenics, like leg raises, for example. You don't really see people doing like hanging leg raises unless they're unless they're doing body weight training, but you can see people doing handstands all over the place, you know. So there's a kind of weird little crossover with skills where they kind of come in and out all over the place, but you tend to know what a handstand is. So yeah, so the next thing then is like how you actually train skills. And this is where body weight training really gets interesting. All right, it gives you the opportunity to kind of be creative and find ways of not just working the basic progressions, but supplementing your training with other skills as well. Things like a German hang, for example, is a great skill that you can learn quite quickly. If you can do your pulls, and if you can do some dips, and if you've got pretty good shoulder mobility and stability as well, because you don't want to risk injuring yourself, but you can probably do German hangs, which is where you go, from hang, you go tuck straight through into like hanging with your shoulders the wrong way around, and it kind of looks like you're going to dislocate your shoulders, but actually I've never seen anyone have that kind of issue at all. You just can't get very far, very close to straight if you don't have good shoulder mobility. But that in itself just prevented me from even trying it for a couple of months, even though I kind of remember doing stuff like that as a kid, you know. But that's just how it goes. So training these skills then gives you the opportunity to mix your training up a bit, make it a bit more interesting. And if you're pursuing a specific skill, like, you can bring ways of training different parts of your body that are required for that skill into your main strength part, with different dynamic exercises and progressions and other kind of supportive exercises that will help you to achieve that goal. So what I mean by that, because that was quite like vague, is if you like learning your front lever, don't just do regular pulls. Don't do your front, like using the one workout framework that we covered in the last episode. Don't just go, right, I'm learning a front lever, so I'm going to do front levers at the start, like Rhys said, and then I'm going to do pull-ups and dips and leg raises, and then I'm going to do push-ups, and think about how you can apply that. So you learn your front lever, maybe you do your front lever skill training right at the start, but then you think, oh, during my strength part, I'm going to do front lever pulls instead. So maybe you have to do them in a tuck front lever, but that's okay because you're training everything within that position, which is your front lever position. So you're strengthening everything around that. You're bringing your core and your shoulder stability and that kind of all that trunk, that core strength that you need to be able to hold your body up with your shoulders and still create a dynamic pull movement out of it. So it's, the thing about training these skills is they are really technical and complicated in terms of what's actually happening in your body, but with a bit of logic and just thinking about the exercises that you're doing or that you want to learn, and then thinking about what I can do already or ways that I can use a progression and make it more interesting or dynamic, find a way you can move about during your isometric stuff. And from there you can you basically just go mad. So let's think of some examples, shall we, other than the front lever. So say you're learning the planche. All right, in the last episode of the podcast, I spoke about this planche exercise where you're going from a tuck and to like a advanced frog stand back into a tuck by straddling your legs around your arms, basically. Not leaning and resting on your arms while you're doing it. But anyway, check that out. Going to More Than Lift, at More Than Lifting on Instagram. I got a post up showing you that exercise, so go check that out. But you'll see here how this is using a skill like a planche, training the planche, training that stability and that strength in that position without just doing holds all the time. Yeah, it's slightly different with something that's less strength based, like a handstand, because ultimately it comes down to a bit of skill and coordination, and that just takes longer to build and also you have to train differently to your muscles. All right, so it's not just as straightforward learning to handstand as it is learning to do pull-ups or something like that. With your pull-ups, you can say just do these and this and this, and in 3-4 weeks you'll have built up quite a lot of strength because you've done all these reps. Whereas with a handstand, it can take ages to learn because it's purely a skill-based exercises. That stability, it's that coordination, it's that muscle tension and that ability to adjust yourself and understand in your brain where you are. Like, it's a challenging skill. It's not impossible by any means. You can learn to handstand pretty quick, but it takes a lot of dedication and it takes time and it takes a lot of work, and focus. Whereas you can learn to do loads of dips or whatever by just doing loads of push-ups every day, and then once you can do 20 push-ups you'll be able to do like 5 dips or something even without trying dips, which is totally different. It's the complete opposite of what skills are. So training your skills, like I said in the last episode, you front load all your skill training because it's the most difficult stuff and it takes the most energy and from your body, rather than just doing your basic movement, your reps, which is just literally grinding away at your muscles and just wearing them down. Working on this skill stuff is more aiming at developing the strength that you already have and learning to actually apply it to something, which is why it's so powerful, in my opinion. And it's also fun. So you're not just limited to the one workout framework. When you're training skills, like in the programs, and when I write any stuff for clients and stuff like that, I always include like low-level drill days, which is where you take simple skills and low-level skills, things like crow stands, things like L-sit progressions, like L-sit conditioning exercises, which are great for like strength training and conditioning. But you don't necessarily need to do a full workout every day just to be able to train your skills. You don't just need to be doing the one workout framework every day so you can train your skills, or 3 times a week so that you can train your skills and your strength. You can also train your skills at home. Like if you're learning your planche, you can do that at home. If you're learning an L-sit, you can do that at home. And you can do conditioning exercises in front of the TV. You can do your stretching, your mobility stuff. You can practice your handstands. Like, you have all these options to train skills at different time because a lot of them are just using yourself. Like, you don't really need a lot of equipment. It's different with things like flags and front levers because you do need something to hang off, but you can do that with just your door frame pull-up bar or something like that, and it's easy enough. So training skills, although it can seem quite complicated and actually be really simple, you can go as crazy as you want with it. If you want to make your exercises your workouts more interesting, and you're trying to learn a skill, think of how you can change those progression exercises into dynamic movements that will help strengthen that skill whilst also filling in that kind of push-pull balance and fitting into your workout so that you're not neglecting one part of your training for another. So balance is key. So I guess that's kind of about it, guys. Been on a bit of a ramble there, so apologies for that. But I hope that's given you some ideas of how you can do your skill training and what it actually is. So skill training, actually, just before I go, so we're going to get through some different types of skill training and a bit more about skills and stuff like that over the next couple of episodes. So I forgot the reason that I was telling you this. So yeah, so we're going to go into a bit more detail on everything I've just kind of touched on, thrown out over the last 15 minutes or so. But we're also going to talk about something really specific, which is skills cycles and training cycles, which I have spoken about before in the podcast with Chris, but I really wanted to just drill straight into it and dive into different forms of strength and skill training and training cycles and all stuff, because it's really interesting. You don't have to necessarily train in that way, although you should be doing some kind of cycle because you need to work on, that's how progressive training works. You can't just be doing the same stuff all the time. You'll kind of go nowhere. But if you want to work on a specific skill, often you'll need to get stronger, and then you'll be able to start training that skill. Because when you think, oh, I want to learn a front lever, you can't front lever yet, can you? Because otherwise you'd be like, I'm going to do a front lever, not I'm going to learn one. So first thing, you need to get stronger, which is why we do your strength cycle first. You do focus on your strength training first, get strong enough, and then you can start learning the skill. All right, every skill that you try and tackle, you're going to have to do some form of strength training first before you can actually achieve the skill, because you need to be comfortable in that position. You need to be able to train that coordination and strength in the position as well, so you can adjust and stabilize yourself. And then you need to work up the progressions to hit that ultimate exercise. Like, it's going to be difficult. It's a skill. It's not just a basic or low level conditioning drill. It's called a skill, so it's got to be big, you know what I mean? So skill cycles, then, when you start going beyond this one workout framework, which we have spoken about in the last episode, when you start going beyond that into more dedicated training, if you're starting to spend more time and think about what you're doing and really kind of, if you have the ability to focus more on your training than just 1 or 2 times a week or 2 or 3 times a week, and you really want to go in, and these skill cycles and strength cycles are a great way to go. That's not to say that I can only train 2 or 3 times a week, so I can't do cycles. That's not true at all. But you need to, you want to think about how you can fit enough training in to be able to learn those skills if you need to do everything, because it takes a lot of time, and you want to be able to actually see the results of your development as you're learning it, or you're going to get disheartened. And it's obviously focus. You can only work on one thing at a time. You can't shuffle about and do everything, because you'll never really achieve very much because you're too scattered. Having said that, you can also superset, like if you've got complementary skills that you're trying to work on, like a muscle up and a handstand, for example. I mean, these aren't complementary, they're two total opposites. So your muscle up is your strength skill, your handstand's your skill. Now, these make a really good superset together because they're just totally different exercises. Your muscle up is your push and pull kind of combined, and then you've got your handstand, which is your isometric, your stability, your control, your coordination, that's all kind of working in there. And that is one of my favorite supersets, handstands and muscle ups. Well, it's usually the other way around. You do your muscle up first, then your handstand. And so kind of you don't necessarily have to have them split. You can work on them together. Also, if you had like a front lever and a planche, you're doing the opposite shoulder levers. One's pressing up and one's pressing down with your shoulders. So that's also a pretty good complementary kind of combo, isn't it? Where you could think, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'll do front levers and planche training together because they're two complementary skills. You could probably work towards them at the same time. So cycles are another thing where you dedicate like a little bit of time towards strength, and you just go all in on strength training, and like you go, I'm going to spend 2 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that, 6 weeks dedicated strength training, I'm going to forget about skills for a while, and then once I'm even stronger than I am, and I'm even more capable than I am right now, I'm going to turn my attention towards that front lever, and I'm going to smash it out in a month, and all my training is going to be focused on that front lever in that skill cycle, and I'm going to smash it out in a month. And you know what, you probably, if you're already at a decent level, it can be that thing that just boosts you straight up. Like you have your strength cycle and you come into your skills and you're like a new person because you just spent a month training hardcore on your strength. So a little touch on quick on how I'm just going into cycles now, so sorry guys, I can't help myself. I just love talking about this stuff. I love helping people to learn and apply this stuff in their own life and learn some cool shit. Speaking of which, this weekend, Bradley, this guy reached out to me about talking about how he's building his gym in his garden, mate. But after by the time we finished speaking, like chatting, just back and forth, only a little bit on the DM. It wasn't that mad or anything, but I was so excited. I just wanted to go meet him wherever he was and start digging up holes for him to whack his posts in for his gym. So Bradley, mate, keep me updated with that, man. Let me know what's going on with your gym because I want to see it in action. And yeah, that'd be really cool. Look, guys, I've been going on for ages. That's it for this episode. If you like what you heard, hit subscribe. Sorry that I kind of had a bit of a ramble in there, but that's just the nature of sitting here by yourself chatting about training. Sorry. Hopefully it's all been useful stuff. If you've got any questions, comments, or anything, as always, reach out to me on the DMs at More Than Lifting everywhere. Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm a human being. We can have a conversation if you've got any questions or whatever. Also, this weekend, I've just been setting up this beginners program, which is for like complete beginners. If you can't do like even as much as your pulls and your rows very well yet, like this is the one for you. We're going to talk about this in a future episode because I'm concluding this one. But yeah, so just a little teaser. That's coming. I spent all of yesterday just filming videos for it. I just woke up in the morning and I was like, oh, I'm going to build this program now. And I just spent all day building this program. It's not finished yet. Like it wasn't that easy just to pull out of the ether this entire program, but it's coming in the next week or two. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If you've got any interest in that as well, also reach out to me on the DMs by all means. And guys, otherwise, like and subscribe as always, share it with your mates, spread the gains, and yeah, keep in touch with yourselves. I'll catch you in a couple of days with the next episode, and yeah, I'll see you then.